Well, we find ourselves at the end of another year, and I don't know about you, but I reckon they seem to be rolling through faster than ever. Maybe it's just me. But even so, I'm really looking forward to whatever is in store for 2022. Now, I guess we all like to look forward to the new year at this time, and I'm really keen to do that as well. But for this video, I'd like to take a look back at some of my favourite images from 2021. From a Nightscape photography perspective, I'm actually delighted with the images I've been able to capture this year. It hasn't always been easy, but I'm very thankful that between the lockdowns and the travel restrictions, I've been able to fit in a few great photography trips. So let's go back and see what images I've rated my best for the year. And perhaps you can let me know in the comments below if you actually agree with me. Now, as you know, I had a fantastic road trip to Tasmania back in May this year. And of course, some images from that trip will feature in this series. So I'd like to start with the picture that has rated my best-selling print image from 2021. The beautiful boathouse from the Freycinet Peninsula region of Tasmania. Before I left home, I'd already marked a few spots to shoot along the east coast of Tassie. This lovely old boathouse was one of those. I simply loved spending a fair amount of time scanning out the surrounding area, and just being off the road, it was quite easy to access this location. I shot many compositions in every direction, but this one featuring the setting Milky Way core is probably the best of the night. There's just something quite magical about this spot, and I hope this image conveys some of that emotion to everyone who looks at it. I know it sure does bring back some amazing memories for me. Now, for the second image, I'd like to take you right back to the start of the year. I just had one of my Nikon Z6s Astro modified, and by the time February came along, I was really keen to get out there to view the rising Milky Way galactic core in the dawn eastern horizon. For this shot, I used my Astro modified camera and the 50mm f1.8 lens. I put this combination on my star tracker and assembled a series of about 10 2-minute exposures to stack in sequator. This was then blended with a single silhouetted foreground of this tree. I've entitled this one Sky Ablaze Over the Tree, and you can see why. I absolutely love this image, and it also looks amazing when printed large and hanging on the wall. So these images are not in any particular sequence or order. I'm simply placing them how they flow best for me when I'm looking at them now in hindsight. So our next image is one I've shot many times in the past, but somehow on this occasion, I was just so taken with the quality and character of this particular shot that I have to include it here. It's the old comma truck body sitting at the farm with the circular star trails dominating the background sky. This particular shot is about 2 hours worth of exposures, and I shot this using separate 3-minute images. One of the interesting things about this image is that there was some aurora activity during the capture, and it seems quite apparent in the shot low down just above the truck. I didn't even know this was happening till later the next day, as I'd actually seen nothing during the actual capture during the night. So it just goes to show that there is so much unpredictability regarding shooting nightscapes, and often we find a pleasant surprise during the editing of our shots. Now, if you follow this channel, you'll know that I have a fascination with trees, and I spend countless hours driving around the countryside looking for suitable trees to capture during the night. Our next image is one such shot. This is taken near Hollow Mountain in the Grampians National Park, and to be honest, I didn't know anything about this tree until I walked right up alongside it when I was exploring the area during the afternoon. Sometimes a composition doesn't stand out to us from a distance, and you have to be in just the right spot to see the composition in your mind's eye. We have to imagine how it could look under the stars, and we need to utilize all our experience to actually work the scene. And this was one such example of that. But I'm so pleased with how this one came out. It's actually a panorama. even though you wouldn't know it at first glance. But I was very close to the tree and I needed the extra width to make the shot work. I was very keen to include both the distant mountains but also the very close foliage in front of the tree. The key here is the separation of the tree from the background, and I went to great lengths to place it in that dip between the distant mountain range. Now, of course, all of this needs the Milky Way to play ball, and thankfully in this case it was in just the right place. Now, continuing my tree theme, I'd like to take us back to Tasmania. This is the world famous tree at Binalong Bay, right in the heart of the Bay of Fires region of the state. Now, I loved visiting this spot. It's just simply mesmerizing. However, I'd almost made up my mind that I wouldn't be shooting this tree under the stars because it's been done to death by just about everyone who visits this location. However, I found myself drawn back here after dark, and I'm really glad I did come back to shoot it. Interestingly, a few months after I'd returned home from my Tasmanian trip, I found out that this tree had been blown over in a storm. So I was so glad that I'd made the effort to get back there to shoot it. You know, it just goes to show that sometimes we just have to get over ourselves and perhaps swallow our pride and get the shot. I'm sure glad I did that now. There's always a lesson to learn as we travel the photography journey, and many times it has nothing to do with camera settings or equipment or even technique. Many times it's all about how to appreciate the simple things that we see around us and never to take these things for granted. Anyway, let's move on. And unsurprisingly, here's another tree. This one was taken much later in the year, and you may remember the video where this shot was featured. I'd had a disappointment earlier in the evening and almost turned for home without even getting the camera out. But something made me continue the hunt for a composition, and boy, I'm glad I did. This shot was the final image that night, and it features a brilliant canola crop with the setting Milky Way galactic core behind. I used a number of techniques to capture this one, as there was no ambient light at all. I had to take some extra long exposure foreground shots to show the beauty of the canola and then add in some subtle light painting on that foreground tree. Now, once again, a really simple composition, but one that is so easy to drive right on past without giving a second thought. I'm glad I stopped on this particular night. Okay, so one of the things I love to do is find a simple subject to feature in my Nightscape images. A technique I like to use is fit a longer focal length lens and throw the stars in the background out of focus by shooting wide open apertures. So in this case, I'm using a 35mm f1.8 lens focused on the trike in the foreground, which is only about 1.5 meters away from the camera. A very small amount of light painting from an acute angle is all that's required to bring some extra magic to the shot. It's a simple technique that requires a deft touch with the lighting to get the best results, but I'm always happy to give it a go. All right, so moving right along, I'd like to take you back to the middle of the year. I was searching for a subject to shoot at a local lake. Now, the water level was lower than usual, and this brought a distinct change to the landscape along the water's edge. Some trees appeared that had previously been more hidden from view. And this is one such composition, and I was delighted to come back and shoot this one. A really low angle as well as calm water made it possible to include both the reflection of the tree and also the Milky Way core. Now, that is a double bonus. Shots like this are not so much hard to take, but they can be really difficult to pre-visualize. So that's why I spend so much time scouting around these spots before going out to shoot. And added to that is the fact that only a few weeks after this was taken, the water level rose significantly and made this composition actually impossible. So I've learnt my lesson. Don't wait. If the opportunity arises, get out there and shoot it before it's gone. Now, I mentioned that my Tasmanian trip would feature heavily in this video, and sure enough, we go back down to the amazing Sentinel Ranges for our next image. Nothing prepared me for the beautiful and rugged landscape of this region of Tassie. It's so photogenic, yet almost inhospitable at first glance. I did spend a lot of time searching for suitable compositions in this area, but the sheer size of the mountain range was actually quite daunting. I decided on a panorama to try to capture the majesty of it all. Not an easy thing to do when it's a pitch black night in a Bortle 1 sky location. The stars shone brilliantly, but the foreground was a challenge. I decided on shooting extra long exposures for the foreground and adding that to the normal technique of shorter exposures for the sky. So I ended up with 2 separate panoramas and blended them together in post to achieve the end result. I love this image, and I think that's in no small part due to the great memories I have from this trip. And that's something that I never underestimate or take for granted. I'm not sure when I'll be able to get back down there, so these shots and memories have a very special place in my heart. Okay, now speaking of memories, I'm going right back to the start of the year with this next image. I've entitled this one Heavens Above, and I think you can see why. I was in love with this image as soon as I saw it on the computer screen. It was the end result of a lot of planning and traveling, not to mention a really late night to capture. The image itself is a focal length blend with the sky shot at 50mm and the foreground at 20mm. The sky is a 2-panel panorama shot on my star tracker. Then I light painted the foreground using my standard fine art light painting method. I spent a fair amount of time on this one, and I reckon it was certainly well worth the effort. Our next shot is a little bit similar to the last one, but it's all shot at 50mm. Now, I do love a good Milky Way photo at that focal length. It's almost as if you can reach out and actually touch it. Now, this location is a favourite of mine, and I love how the old ruin fits so seamlessly with the awesome rising Milky Way in the background sky. Now, just in case you're wondering, neither this shot or the previous image were taken with my Astro modified Z6. These were taken with the standard Z6 Mark II. I really love that camera, and I would say it's the best camera I have ever owned, bar none. Now, while we're on the theme of 50mm lenses, our next image is also shot at that focal length. So here's a bit of a pattern emerging here. Whenever the background sky target is low to the ground, that's when you can bring out the longer lenses. Now, this particular shot is a multi-row panorama, and it was actually only taken a couple of months back. You can see the planet Venus dominating the sky, and I particularly like the misty high-level cloud that wandered into the scene as I was shooting it that night. Once again, I've used a single tree as a foreground element, and I really like how that anchors the scene and certainly complements the gorgeous sky above. It's almost a delicate dance of the various elements, but with no one part taking the lead. All of them shine through at different times depending on how you view the image. And you know, I think that's the key to a great image, trying to place all of the key elements in a way that gives great complement to the other parts of the scene. That may be colour or texture or perhaps light and shade. This is why I love doing light painting. It adds so much to our creative process and helps tell a story of our adventure under the stars. Okay, so speaking of adventure under the stars, nothing comes close to this night for me. Yes, we're back in Tasmania at the breathtaking Lake Pedder. If you ever find yourself in the southwest region of Tasmania, you just have to visit this place. It's so spectacular. But of course, it took that up to a whole new level when the Aurora Australis made an appearance while I was there shooting. I shot so many images there during this time. I had 3 cameras rolling non-stop, different focal lengths used, but I made myself stop on numerous occasions just to gaze up in absolute awe at what I was witnessing. This was nothing short of magnificent, the brightest and most colourful aurora that I'd ever seen. I shot many selfies that night, and I'm not actually sure I can say which one I like the most. They all hold a very special place in my heart, and I can tell you that I'll never ever forget this night as long as I live. I have this one up on my wall at home, so maybe I'll lean towards it, but who knows? Look, it doesn't really matter. I so love all of them, it's impossible to choose. So there you have it, my best images from 2021. As always, I'm delighted to share these adventures with you. I really do appreciate all the support and encouragement you guys send me. The comments, the messages, the emails, it just means so much to me, and I sincerely love you all. I want to wish you the very best as we move into 2022. A new year brings new opportunities, new challenges, and new friendships. I'm going to take it with both hands, and I know you will as well. So until I see you again, have a wonderful week and Happy New Year.